easy to pull off, believe me. Thank you all for that moment of indulgence. And now we're at item number 1, which is emergency response. We've been talking to United Illuminating about making this presentation for some time to bring the Board of Selectmen and the town up to date on UI's emergency storm preparedness. And we thought it was a good opportunity also to hear a little bit about Quinnipiack Valley Health District, of which we are a member, and also from our town emergency response team. And the goal this evening is to hear generally about our preparedness for all kinds of emergencies. I will say that with the recent Ebola scare, we also made sure and had a meeting to be sure that everyone is up to speed on the current protocols, and I think everyone can be well reassured that we have a top-notch team and everyone is aware of what's appropriate in this 21st century situation. So we'll start with United Illuminating. Terry Eller, thank you so much for coming tonight.
Okay, thank you for having us. We appreciate it. I apologize it took us a couple months to get this all lined up. I would like to take this opportunity just to introduce Jim Cole is our Director of Transmission and Distribution Operations. He is the incident commander during storms. He's the one who runs all of the storms, and that's Jim Cole. And he's the man in charge. And then also Roddy Diotalevi, who is the Senior Director of Sales and Marketing during the day, but his storm role is the same as mine as the liaison leader. So just to get started here, I am going to talk about our emergency response plan and how we work with the town of Woodbridge, the state, and other entities as well. And I apologize, they're going to kind of flitter in here, but it'll get better. I really wanted to talk a lot about, there's typical storms. The anticipated storms are obviously the hurricanes that we can plan for, we know they're coming, etc. But there are also other storms that hit the UI company and cause power outages. Heavy snow, ice storms, wind storms, thunderstorms, heat waves, tornadoes. We've actually experienced all of these within the UI territory. Heavy snowstorms are not so much of a concern for us if the leaves are off the trees. The snow comes down, it falls. We have a bigger concern is the town's getting the roads plowed, so if we do have any outages, we can obviously get to those. But I do want to point out that there are many different storms. We hear a lot about hurricanes with Sandy and Irene, but we've experienced all of these storms. UI, in case you don't know, files a UI emergency response plan every year. It's an in-depth plan. We provide a written copy to the town of Woodbridge and all 17 towns. This is on file with PURA. It's approved by them. And we also provide the town of Woodbridge with an electronic copy as well. It's an in-depth plan, and it has a systematic approach to plan, identify, and assess for the recover for the effects of an emergency. It is our guide. It has protocols are established, communication plans in every facet of the organization, and it provides to us a high-level strategy to be able to prepare and plan for any storms that are coming our way. With respect to our priorities for restoration, they're really broken out into 4 different categories. The first category is obviously to deal with immediate life-threatening situations, public health and safety. This would be dealing with our 911 calls that the police and fire make into our dispatch. It deals with restoring power to our hospitals or other evacuation centers. And after the storm has passed, it deals with making the roads safe and making sure that your vehicles can get to any emergencies that you have. Second priority is to restore power to a large number of customers in a minimum amount of time. Third priority is like step down groups of customers, and the fourth priority would be single individual customers. We always work to try and restore the most amount of customers we can in the least amount of time. Before the storm hits, we really like to point out that everybody does have a role. For our customers, before a storm hits, it's important to fill up your gas tank, have a storm kit prepared, make sure you have flashlights, batteries, make sure you have any surge protectors in place. I know in Woodbridge you have many people who are on wells, I believe, so it's important to fill up your bathtub. It's not necessarily for drinking water, it's for other purposes as well. You should buy bottled water. And at the UI, we spend all year training and preparing for the anticipation of a possible storm that could come. As you know, we are in the process of trimming our trees. We check all of our poles to make sure that they're within the time frame of there's the length of time that they can stay up if they need to be replaced. And we always, every single day, we are monitoring the forecasts. When the lights do go out, obviously customers have a responsibility to keep sensitive electronic appliances plugged into their surge connector, keep the refrigerator or freezer closed, and most importantly, if you do have a power outage, to please call our 1-800 number and report that the power is out. For UI, I can tell you, and it's not really just UI, it's Southern Connecticut Gas and Connecticut Natural Gas. Every single employee within our organization has a storm role. Everybody has a dual role. So when a storm hits, we have HR people who may be on wires down. Every single person has a role, and there's they go through intensive training. I think we have about 1,800 different storm roles within our organization. Again, we continue to monitor the forecasts, and then we begin the process of doing damage assessment and restoring power, looking at the immediate life-threatening situations, of course, first. And then after the storm, after a storm rolls through, we always emphasize for customers to stay a minimum of 20 feet away from any downed wire, keep your pets and children inside, and again, at UI, we begin our restoration process. Just to talk a little bit about the liaison team and our organizational structure. The liaison team lead, that's myself and Roddy, who I just introduced you to. We're a team of about 80 people, and we have various different organizations in which we support. One being the state EOC. We have people positioned up at the state armory that are working with the governor and keeping the governor up to date. We have individuals that report to PURA on how we're doing with respect to outages. You want to ask me a question?
You might explain what PURA is.
Oh, that's the Public Utility Regulatory Authority. It used to be the DPUC, and then they changed it to PURA. That's who we are responsible for. We have a major account coordinator in my department who is in touch with all of our big major top accounts, keeping them informed regarding their power outage. And then we have the municipal liaison team coordinators. All that second tier, and myself and Roddy up at the top, we are all working out of the UI EOC Center located at 100 Marsh Hill Road. Folks underneath that, we have the state EOC liaisons at the Armory, and we have people at the regional DEMIS. The DEMIS is the Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. I believe you're part of Region 2, I believe, which I think is up in Middletown. I think that's where Woodbridge reports. We have somebody up there. And we have your municipal liaison. Each town of our 17 towns is assigned 2 municipal liaisons. We have your one person is Marissa Westbrook. It used to be Vinny Lazaro. Vinny has retired from the UI company, but Marissa Westbrook is currently your municipal liaison. We have another person who's currently being trained as well. And then we have a team of other people that we can pull into and have them report as well. And then we have some municipal liaison assistants. All of our liaisons go through an in-depth training in order to become one. They participate in our NIMS training. They have to take a test on our UI emergency response plan training. They have in-depth stellar customer service to make sure that they're providing the best top-notch service they can to Woodbridge. They take an electricity 101 course because, as I mentioned, many of our liaisons may have roles during the day as they work in HR or IT and not be somebody who deals with electricity on a daily basis. And they attend, I have an annual liaison training session where we discuss all of those things mentioned. The liaisons, when they show up to the town of Woodbridge, they come equipped with a laptop, air card, their cell phone, they have a scanner, they have a projector, and they have a storm binder, and I did bring Woodbridge's storm binder. This has all the information they need. If any of the programs were not available, everything is in here. They can use, it's like a printed book that they can refer to. It has maps in here, and everything really is at their fingertips. So they all have one of those for their towns. And there's the storm binder, what it contains, the town contact information. I can't stress that enough. It's very important that we have all the up-to-date contacts with the town. We have annual meetings each year that happen during the month of June, where we go out, we meet with all of the towns, we ask the first selectman or first selectwoman to provide us with a list of their top 10 priorities. We verify who the contacts are, we verify the emails. Most all of our notification is done through emails. We go through the circuit maps, we go through the different forms that are required, we go through the Make Safe Guide, etc. We have information in there on the gas as well, since you're now a gas town, natural gas town. And here's a little bit about the EOC meetings, what we do and what we go through. Mike Stein is your account manager. He had this meeting with you in June. It is very important to us when it comes to those meetings. We like the EOC director, the mayor or first selectman, somebody from the police department, somebody from the fire department. Look over there at my friend Ray. Someone from the fire department and the public works department to go as well. And those are kind of the things we review. We do review the Make Safe process for clearing blocked roads. That's always something very important to the town. We review our restoration philosophy. Those were the top 4 things I spoke about in the beginning of the presentation. And we do talk about our code of conduct, which Woodbridge did sign, and UI will enforce that. Communication is really the key with the town, and I want to point out that your municipal liaison is really here to serve the town of Woodbridge and the town's buildings. Municipal liaison isn't here to serve every single resident in Woodbridge. Those residents should call our 1-800 number, and we have a whole entire call center that will deal with those individual residents. But the municipal liaison's role is to really help the town clear the roads, to find out about the top 10 priorities, and anything that's really of importance to the town. The fact that Mrs. Jones on Apple Street doesn't have power is not really a concern of the municipal liaison. That she would call the 1-800 number. But I do want to point out communication, because that's one of the most important things for any storm. So before the storm comes, it's very important to note that we are monitoring the weather and we are providing as much information as we can possible. I'm sure people have seen emails that have come out from me if you're on the distribution list for Woodbridge. We talk about UI's contingency plan. We remind the towns to test their generators. We ask them about their life support lists. We send out a police notification that we will not be hiring police during a storm. We give updates regarding our substations, if they're having potential for flooding or not. We talk about UI Storm Center. We tell the town that UI Storm Center will be opening on November 30th at 8 a.m. and we will be currently staffed. We ask the towns, are you going to open your EOC center? Are you planning on opening? If so, please let us know, because we don't send a liaison unless you identify to us that your EOC is going to be open. We do ask, we want you to open your EOC. It's better for us if you open it up and we put somebody here. We find that that's much better with communication. And then we begin to schedule our liaison coverage. We do like to take advantage of daylight hours. We've provided 24-hour coverage to many towns, but we've found that most EOC centers do stay open from about 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. But if your EOC center wanted to be open 24 hours, we would provide you that coverage as needed. Like I said, the email storm group, that's something that we do work with the town. Anybody that the first selectman or the EOC director or anybody wants to be on that list, we will put them on the list. And that's kind of after the storm is passed and we're in the middle of it. We're continue to send you weather updates. We continue to provide you with an update regarding how many people are without power, how many customers we've restored. We send you updates 3 times a day at 9, 1, and 7. We provide you a list of the outages and the restoration locations. Then after the storm, many towns will have an EOC post meeting to determine what worked, what didn't work. And we typically will send you out a survey to see where we could work better together. Here's just some of the information we do with the state, the region, and PURA. We're obviously working with all of those entities as well. And this really talks about the municipal liaison team coordinators. They're at our EOC, they're helping our municipal liaisons, and the liaison lead, that's my role. Here's the top 10 priority facilities. This is actually the letter we received from Ellen stating that who the top 10 are. Each town is given 10 priority facilities. They're broken into 2 categories, Tier 1 and Tier 2. It's important to note that we restore all Tier 1 facilities in all 17 towns first. So we would make sure that all of our towns had their Tier 1 facilities restored before we began to work on our Tier 2. They're not done in order. So for example, if the town hall at 11 Meeting House Lane, if we could restore that power in 2 hours with 2 crews and get it done, we would do that before we may do the Amity Regional High School. Because we look to restore them as quickly as in the shortest amount of time that we can. The Tier 1 facilities would be done first. Every year we meet with the municipal official and determine what that list is. If we don't get an update, we use the letter that we've had in the past. It's important for us to get this information in June because we're planning for our season. We are taking these locations, we are identifying them within our systems. We are putting them on maps, and we want to plan ahead of time. So it's very important to identify who they are. And we've seen when different first select people come in or different mayors, sometimes the list changes, sometimes the list stays the same for years and years. So that's your list. The dedicated Make Safe crew is an issue that always comes up. Every town is promised a dedicated Make Safe crew. The purpose, obviously, is to assist the municipalities in clearing the blocked roads. A Make Safe crew consists of 1 line clearance crew, 1 construction crew, and the municipality's Department of Public Works crew. The process, many times the town will ask, can I get my Make Safe crew there before the storm hits, or can you position them somewhere? We do not do that. We don't know where the damage is going to be. We would never want to take 34 crews and put them in all 17 towns. What if the storm only hit the Fairfield and Bridgeport area? Then we'd have to, and we would never allow those crews to sit in their trucks during a storm. They need to be safe. And also the process is the town needs to have completed their blocked roads. They need to tell us where those blocked roads are. They need to request the Make Safe crew, and then we muster a crew and we set up a plan of where they're going to meet, and then they roll and start to clear the blocked roads. Damage assessment is a very important thing after the storm rolls through. The severity of the storm dictates how long this can take. In some storms it could take a day or 2. Some storms it could take 6, 7, 8 days. We do send out damage assessors once it's safe. They control our circuits. They report all the findings. They come back. They put up the work packages to be able to tell the crews what kind of equipment they're going to need. Is there a snap pole? Do they need a transformer, etc. I'd like to talk a little bit about life support customers. It comes up a lot. Customers on life support are instructed. It's their responsibility to advise UI of their situation. There's a form they complete every year that needs to be renewed. They have to get a letter from a certified physician in order to be considered life support. They are all coded in our system. During an outage, I want to point out, we have life support customers on every single circuit. There are hundreds, thousands of them. So we don't go and restore power to life support customers first, because frankly speaking, they're everywhere. It's important for life support customers to know where they can get help, which is why we restore power to hospitals and shelters first. I think Woodbridge did take advantage of our GIS mapping system. So Woodbridge does have a list of our life support customers that we've provided to you electronically. You also have a list, I think, of all of our poles. So you did take advantage of that, and I applaud you for doing that. Many towns wanted that. We've provided that, and of our 17 towns, not all have taken advantage of it, and I'm not quite sure why. Also, during a storm or prior to a storm, we do a lot of public outreach. Our website is a great place to go to get information. In your bill, everybody gets 12 bills a year. There's billing inserts in there. They talk about power outages. They talk about who to call. We do many press releases and media events. And we have our storm and outage alerts, which is brand new to our company. You can sign up for that. I'm going to show you what that looks like. In order to receive messages on your phone regarding an outage at your house. So when you go in there, you can manage your storm and outage alert contacts. You should probably have your bill in front of you and sign up for it. I am not a UI customer. I'm actually a CLMP customer because of where I live. And I can tell you that CLMP has this service, and I signed up for it, and I love it. If power was to go out in my home right now, I'm not home, right? I would get an outage alert on my phone. I would get a phone call, or I would receive a text message that the power has gone out at my house. UI has a similar system. So you select what you want to be notified for. If you want general information about UI storm preparedness, it's really a way for us to push out messages. It's a great service, and I would recommend, really encourage everybody to sign up for it. And just to touch a little bit about home generator safety, a lot of people have home generators. It's very important that they read and adhere to all the manufacturer's instructions, make sure they're properly grounded. We do have a program called Shield and Connect, where we will put something on your meter. It costs only $9. There's surge protectors there as well. It's $9 a month. It's a great service. If you have a generator, this is a great way to go for that. I think they provide 50 feet of cable. So this is a great program. We've had a lot of people sign up for that after storms. It helps protect our linemen. They get worried when they're out there working on the poles that it's going to backfeed and injure them. So it's important never to overload your generator. Always turn it off when you go to sleep. We've all heard the stories about people who brought the generator inside their home and had carbon monoxide poisoning. And really just to touch upon some of the challenges we have during a storm. Towns want real-time data. They want to know where the crews are. They want to know the number of crews. Top 10 priorities. We have many towns. I need more than 10. 10 isn't enough. If we make everything a priority, really nothing's a priority. 10 is our number. That's what we've decided, and that's what we are sticking with. Down wires. We've had fire departments. I'm not sure of Woodbridge or if anybody's here from the fire department. They've said that they want to purchase hot sticks to test for down wires. That's an OSHA. I think that's against OSHA regulations. You're not allowed to use those. I do know some towns that have them. We highly discourage and actually tell towns not to use them. We actually send a letter every year telling you that you are kind of forbidden to use hot sticks to test for a down wire. Make safe crews. Many towns want more than one make safe crew. We've had towns using make safe crews to push trees out of the way and take care of their tree problems where there weren't wires tangled up in them. That's not the purpose of a make safe crew. We have problems with towns and residents, frankly, understanding the complexity of our system. It is a complex system. It's not that simple to fix, and it takes time. And so sometimes that message is hard. People, after day 3, get frustrated that they don't have any power, and they want a quick fix. And sometimes it takes 8, 10, 12 hours, 24 hours in order to make a repair if it's if there's been severe damage. And we've had some misuse and mistreatment of our municipal liaisons in our towns, and we've had misuse and mistreatment to our linemen who are out working in the field. We've had rocks and eggs thrown at them. We've had our liaisons been mistreated. We've never had this happen in the wonderful town of Woodbridge. Unfortunately, we have had it happen in other towns, but we've always had a great relationship with Woodbridge. And that's really basically it. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I did bring some flashlights and little emergency kits for everybody. Not planning on any storms. Like I said to somebody here, we allowed you to have Halloween this year, but we're not in charge of the weather, so we wish we were.
Thank you, Terry.
That was very informative. Are there questions? No.
I'm like hyperventilating.
We're not gonna have any storms in a year this year, right, Jim?
No, I don't.
I wanted to ask you about, if it's a bad storm, how does the municipal liaison get to our EOC? Do you provide special transportation or our police department? How do we be sure they get there?
So we've done it different ways. I can tell you that I remember during a bad snowstorm, a city requested a liaison. They actually went out and got their liaison from their home and picked them up and brought them. We've agreed to bring them. We will not allow our employees to drive in unsafe conditions. So if it's not safe for them to drive, we're not going to. Typically during the hurricanes, we try to encourage the towns to open their EOC prior to those events so that they're kind of on staff and they're here so they can be here before the storm and then weather the storm, and they may stay. We've had liaisons who've stayed for 2 days or 3 days at an EOC, believe it or not, because it was unsafe for them to leave. They're told to bring stuff with them in case that's possible. I mean, I can tell you during our storms, there were cots, hundreds of cots everywhere at our UI's EOC Center. We sleep there. We're there 24 hours for 7 days at a time. But we would really ask that if it was an event that just happened and all of a sudden you were having major outages, we'd have to wait until it was safe to bring them there. But we would, and if they say, I'm scared to drive, we wouldn't say you have to drive. We would get them a ride there. So we have many vehicles.
Good. Any questions?
Amazing.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
very
thank
informative
you.
and helpful.
Oh, and I
Thank you.
do want to say that we had a training session today on Make Safe, and I think it was Lieutenant Jeff Levy. Huh? Livey, I'm sorry, was there, and I think somebody else was there as well. So I thank you for sending somebody. That's always great when they can attend our training sessions because they're very valuable.
Thank you.
That was great.
Okay, thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Leslie Balch, who's the director of the Quinnipiack Valley Health District.
Thank you.
I actually don't have any show and tell, so you're stuck looking at me.
So
These are my notes.
do you want to, if you would just sit here,
Okay.
that's for our non-show and tell people.
For our non-show and
Right.
You've got goodies.
I have show and tell for me, so that, I'm just gonna give this to you. It is, hot off the press, our annual report, not our financial annual report, but our numbers report.
Thank you.
That I will refer to, and I would never be able to get up and walk out and come back again, because I'm not quite that coordinated. I'm Leslie Walsh, I'm the director of the Quinnipiack Valley Health District, much easier to say QVHD, and that's how I refer to it most times when I have to write it. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here, more to meet you. And I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm sort of smack in the middle of the emergency preparedness, but I want to talk a little bit about the health district, our relationship with the town, as well as how we are ready to respond and how we work with the town in preparedness. QVHD is actually the official local health department. We are a quasi-governmental agency, independent, run by a board, appointed by the towns. And we are the official agency for Woodbridge, and Bethany, and Hampden, and North Haven. So we are a district in that we have a regional organization, and we are funded primarily by tax dollars. Local tax dollars, on a per capita basis, represents about 44% of our budget. Federal tax dollars in the form of grants represents only about 17% of our operating budget. The state contributes all of $1.85 per capita, which is about 16% of our budget, and the rest is from our reserves, and about 11.5 in fees, because as a cost center or a service center, we don't charge half as much as it costs us to provide the services that we give. Over the years, the percentages represent a little bit less of our operating budget as our costs have gone up. It is primarily staffing and the supplies that we use for that. By definition, public health prevents illness, promotes wellness, and protects your health. It's often very misunderstood. Matter of fact, when nothing startling or bad or alarming is going on, we're usually invisible. If we're doing our job, we don't see outbreaks. We don't see a lot of heart disease or chronic diseases. So we tend to be invisible as long as we're doing our job, and then when something happens, we become very visible, but no one really knows who we are or what we do. By our mission statement, Quinnipiack Valley is to protect the residents of Bethany, Hamden, North Haven, and Woodbridge from disease and injury, environmental health hazards, through prevention and education and enforcement and collaboration. Now, generally when I tell people I work in public health, they go, oh, and I get one of two responses. Oh, do you send a nurse to my house? Oh, no. Well, then what do you do? Well, we prevent and we protect the residents and we get some information out there. Well, but what do you do? Normally I go, we inspect restaurants and get information out to people. And I just end it there rather than give a lecture. Because what we do is so varied, and the number of things that we do are determined by the needs of the community. I can't tell you today what I'm going to be doing tomorrow, because it definitely changes by the minute. Thus, I gave you the annual report is our numbers report, and it has specific tasks and numbers for those that might be interested. What we do by town, by number of whether it be inspections or restaurant licenses or lectures or communications. We do not track our telephone calls, but we do track our nuisance complaints or things that could be an environmental health risk to the people in the area. Pardon?
You mean complaints about nuisances, just to be clear?
Actually, we call them nuisance complaints. In the laws that we work by, and I'm not really sure if we are science or art or law, but by the laws that we work by, there is a statute that says if it comes to my attention that there may be a nuisance that will impact the health of an individual or a resident, we must go out and look at it and determine whether there are conditions that could cause a problem. So when I refer to nuisance complaint, it's not just because you're annoyed by your neighbor, but it really has to have some substance that impacts health for us to respond to it. Some of the real specific things that we do is we have a role in training new professionals in public health. And I bring this up particularly, I think it's really important for Woodbridge right now that we had our first high school intern in public health last summer. And I don't know whether it was person dependent, I think it was, or agency dependent, I don't think it was. She was absolutely fantastic. She was from Woodbridge. She had volunteered. We cleared it with her parents because it wasn't part of a program. She had just graduated. And I was really excited to see that the skills and the communications and the knowledge of a different population that I no longer belong to, could really help us out in our communications and getting things together. We also share a lot of knowledge, not just with the community, but we also share knowledge with providers. We do work with physicians. We get the informations out if there's new testing or ways to get testing done for things like Ebola, how and who will be tested. The enterovirus that we've seen in children is another one. The docs were like, can I test? And it's like, well, the standard right now is only for a hospitalized child will it be sent down and tested. You can test for the enterovirus, but not the specific one that's causing severe diseases. So we really need to keep up on what's going on, what the trends are in disease, whether it be infectious disease or chronic disease, what the exclusions would be and wouldn't be, and we've seen a lot of that right now with Ebola. And also, we have worked with, a matter of fact, I think we were here today, for part of the exposure control program for Woodbridge, and I think it was for the police department, maybe it was fire, I'm not sure. But anyway, for the prevention of bloodborne pathogens and specifically hepatitis B. And we've been very involved in making sure that the exposure control plans have been updated and they meet the OSHA standard, and then we can help out with the preventive vaccinations if need be. And also, particularly in our area, we've seen a lot of Lyme disease and West Nile virus. Connecticut was one of the first towns after New York that saw it. So we try to get the information out there. We try to work with our towns to see if they have a larviciding program or a way to respond to to the mosquito issue, particularly if we're expecting it to be a bad year. We do surveillance so that we know the number of diseases, the kinds of diseases, and the populations that it's affected, and what the characteristics of those populations are, so that we can do programs targeted to make less of that disease. And we inspect restaurants, I have to say that. We actually inspect and license restaurants, and we're embarking on a new program where we're going to start posting publicly for our, we call them class 3s and 4s, those that do a lot of preparation of food and heat it or hold it. And we're actually going to make it public and post it on the windows like most of us see in New York. It is a trend in Connecticut right now, and we found it to be a great way to get the restaurateurs or the food service people interested in really making their work sanitary and good. We are not going to be qualifying the food tastes, but we will be working on the sanitations and the safe preparation. We oversee septic system installation and make sure that they meet the technical standards of the day, because they do change periodically, so that they last a little bit longer and that they protect the groundwater and the people that live in the neighborhood. And we work with those systems that are failing, and sometimes we have to use our power of enforcement to make people do what needs to be done to protect the health of the people because of environmental issues. And we're always advocating for better health and wellness of a community through advocacy, whether it be educating our legislators or whether it be making suggestions about how best certain laws can be, standards for certain laws can be made. But to get back to the preparedness thing, we serve as partners in the response. We are part of the Unified Command, which I think someone's going to speak about a little bit later, and we are really ready to respond to any kind of health emergency, whether it be mass distribution of medications, whether it be getting information out there to the community, where to go, how to protect themselves, how something is going to put them at risk, whether it be where to go, how to shelter, or if we're giving countermeasures, where to go to get those countermeasures, or mass distribution, as we call it. Our goal in our preparedness is to minimize the impact, to prevent and minimize the spread so that it doesn't get bigger than it already is if it's happened, and also to minimize the social and economic impact of any kind of event. We are primarily health. We do mostly public health things. We get the information out there. We provide alerts and notices and give people things to do that can help them stay safe and not be impacted. We, in the current situation with Ebola, and let me just say that Ebola is not easy to get. It is not airborne. You do not get it from food or water. And I'll clarify the foods that are legally available in the United States. And you can only get it from direct contact with bodily fluids. The one fortunate thing about the disease and the process of the disease is even in the early stages, there are not a lot of body fluids. We certainly have a few natural experiments that have happened, whether it be in Texas or New York, and we've been through a few 21-day cycles, which is the incubation period, and no one that didn't have direct contact, long-term contact with body fluids has gotten ill, and that's making me very happy. So one of the big things with Ebola was to get the information out and get some of those natural experiences under our belt, so that we could get rid of the fear, because the biggest problem was the fear and the ridicule and the bias that was being held against anyone that had traveled, or even those that had valiantly given care. At least in the United States, we're getting a little bit better, and I think that fear will come back if we hear about another case. But right now, we're looking pretty good. Our role as a local health department, in conjunction with the state health department and CDC, if we have a traveler or a person that cared for an ill person that needs to be monitored, and we do active monitoring of a couple of kinds, for early symptoms or temperature for that 21-day period after their last contact, it is the local health department that will be doing it. And I feel very confident in saying we'll be monitoring twice a day, either directly or indirectly, and there will be a real quick pickup of early symptoms, and that person would immediately be isolated, evaluated, and treated if need be, or diagnosed. And that's our role. So we've spent a lot of time reading and listening and reading and watching, but we do that for the many things that we see in our community. It's staying current with the treatments, staying current with the things that people can do, and getting that information out there. Again, I thank you for having me here, and I hope to work with you. I am available by phone. I'd love to tell you 24 hours. I do sleep occasionally, but 3 o'clock in the morning is pretty good. I'm getting up, not going to bed. That was years ago.
Questions for Leslie?
I have one quick question.
Yep.
I actually had a resident ask me just the other day, does the QVHD offer public classes or information, or just to businesses as far as food handling, that type of general health information? Is that something they can get from you, or?
There are classes for what we call a qualified food operator, and they're through certified organizations.
Okay.
However, whether it be one-on-one or if they want to get a group together, we are available.
Great.
We can always arrange something for groups. I did a beauty school a couple weeks ago with infectious diseases because it wasn't Ebola. It was in the middle of Ebola, but they had other concerns.
So they can just call the North Haven office and set something?
They just call us and
Thank you.
we'll set something up. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And then to conclude this section of our agenda, Chief Marcucci and Deputy Chief Stewart will talk about the Unified Command, more commonly known to us as the Emergency Response Team. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having us here. Obviously, asked by the First Selectman, I was asked to provide an overview of our local emergency operational plan that we work on probably on a daily basis. I just want to tell you that a lot of the things that you heard from Terry Eller are probably going to be, I'm going to reiterate in here, only for the mere fact that we use the same system. We use under FEMA, we use the National Incident Management System and ICS, and a lot of the terms that she used during her presentation, that's what we use too. So, I mean, it keeps us both on the same page. But with that said, I says, we've prepared for major incidents in the last several years, such as Hurricane Irene, and a lot of the things that I'm going to go through are related to Irene, but they're not limited, obviously, to Irene. Like Terry said, there's the winter storms, the heat during the summer, things like that. But as we prepared, we brought together our unified command. Now, our unified command is our town officials, all right? Those are the department heads. But it also includes the police, fire, EMS, public works, utilities, human services as related to our sheltering, Quinnipiack Valley Health Department, Leslie Bouch and her office, and other key leaders to review the local emergency operational plan and to prepare for it. And in doing so, we go through the following. Obviously, like I noted when Terry did her presentation, safety is the highest priority to our residents as well as our first responders. And this is what we review at these meetings. And usually it could be just a department head. It could be early December. We get together, and it's important to prepare, obviously, in December for our winter months and our snowstorms. We'll review search and rescue capabilities of the fire department. What are their strengths and what are their weaknesses? We review points of contact and update contact information with our dispatchers so they know it all, and with the participants within that meeting. We review our commodities plan. It's verifying the distribution points within the town. Right now it's the JCC. If for some reason we got to a point where we needed commodities from the state of Connecticut, we've provided them with that location up there, and it's just a matter of asking for it. They would transport either by truck or by helicopter, and they've got the coordinates and everything is all set prior to that. But we review those and make sure that they're all in place. We make sure that we have, and we review the evacuation plans. That's the notifications during Irene, the notification of the flats. Whether it's through verbal notification, flyers, or we have the Everbridge system here that we can use during emergencies. It's a state operated notification system, but they fund it, and like I said, we can use it during emergencies through the PD. We review our shelter plans, our special needs people within the town, like Terry was talking about. Those people that are they're on oxygen, or we have to make sure that they have power if they lose power, as well as our pets. We want to check the status of our local shelters as well as the area local shelters, because there may not be a need to open the shelter in Woodbridge. We may find out it might be more beneficial to use Bethany if they were open. Review the town's continuity operation plan, and that's basically your admin and your finance department. Probably the most important thing during this period is, I know the police want to all get paid, so you want to keep up those plans. Make sure you have something in place. I got a smile out of Tony. You want to identify and prioritize critical information within the community, like our healthcare facilities. And things like this, healthcare facilities, I know that we contact them before the incident, all right, before we come to our department head meeting or our unified command meeting. Animal control, police, fire, town shelter, as well as the schools. We want to review our debris management, which is a big deal with the state. Where are you going to get rid of the trees that you've taken down? We've been very fortunate that we have property here in town that we can do that, but it's all about identifying those debris storages and reduction sites, and that's all done through Public Works, who will be at the table. Communications, test all our communication systems, including radios. Review our contact lists again, and numbers for accuracy. Checking our Everbridge system, availability and for its notification. And check the agreements that we have with our area telephone companies, AT&T or Frontier as it is now, our Verizon carriers. Make sure that we can still utilize them during the emergency situations, when we might lose power and things. Ensure all vehicles are fully fueled, status of generators, supplies like chainsaws and clearing equipment for public works or the fire department. Review our local emergency or our declaration of emergency, the process and the trigger points. Having done this during Irene, and I know Gerry could attest to this, we had to wake up the first selectman at 2 o'clock in the morning on the night of Irene for the mere fact that the fire department got to a point where they extended their resources. And I got a call from Sean saying that, they just had no more resources. So we had to notify the state. But having that all in place and that, Gerry having it all written out, all signed and everything like that, all that had to be done was faxed up to the state. And that's important to know for you as the governing body is that when FEMA comes back and asks, when did you declare the state of emergency, you don't want to say it was 8 o'clock in the morning when it in fact happened at 2 o'clock in the morning. So that's very important. Make contacts with the CERT teams in Bethany and Orange. Here in Woodbridge, we don't have a CERT team anymore. So we rely on them, and we have mutual aid agreements with both Bethany and Orange. If they can staff us, if they needed, whether the shelter or other issues, we can utilize them. As Terry reiterated, opening the web EOC, very important. That's our contact with our state body, which would be up at Country Club Road, the State Police Complex. That's where our regional coordinator is located. That's where we get all our requests through. So we would open an event with them. Hurricane Irene, we've opened the event. We indicate everything that's going on in the town of Woodbridge. We have a house fire, we have road closures, anything that might come up, we log with them. So they have a running log of that. And what's good about that is there's also a running log that you can see on that website of all the other towns. So we know what's going on in Orange. We know what's going on in Bethany, our neighboring towns. Contact the Regional Water Authority, status of the reservoirs. Important during Irene because we were worried about having to close it. They have a pretty good system down there now with the flow of the water, so we really don't have to worry about flooding. I can just reassure you with that. Not to say it won't happen, but they have a pretty good handle on it. But we still have to prepare because, if the West River gets flooded, we have no physical contact with about, I think it's about 63 homes over on that side, and commercial establishments. Reminding the community, again, to plan on self-sufficiency for 72 hours. That's including water, medication, non-perishable food items, batteries, flashlights, phones, and portable radios. Again, consideration should be made for any residents with special needs. I know in Human Services, we have a list. We have all the people that Mary Ellen has on their list. Our dispatch center actually contacts them during the emergency, and periodically contacts them, make sure that they're okay. Evacuation and transportation. We have contracts with B&B Transportation, but we contact them. They may even be at the meeting. We want to know what the accessibility of their vehicles are. Notification, very important prior to the incident. But today we have to have multiple formats because like all these storms that we've had, different things have gone out, and the traditional way that people get messages during emergencies, they may not be able to get them. So we have to make sure that they get those. Communications, again, it's just the information sharing. Above most of the reminders that we review prior to seasonal events, all right, they change, based on the events, whether it be a hurricane, summer heat wave, winter storm, as well as annual mandatory exercises that we take place. We'll have a unified command set up. The state requires it once a year that we take part in that exercise. All the municipalities in this state, and it's important that we take part in that exercise because that what designates whether we can apply for a lot of the grants that we have applied for and got money for. Communications and coordination is the vital point for the town operational plan. Let's see, Woodbridge, as a group, has met their operational objectives and priorities because they understand and work together and through the incident. We've done that. We have a strong relationship with UI. We were very fortunate with our last liaison. He lived in town. Not like what Terry explained to you that he was a a worker out in the field, so he knew the electrical portion of it. So, but I think I feel very confident with the one that they have now that we've been working with for the last 2 years. She worked right alongside Vinnie, knows what our needs are and our demands here in Woodbridge are, so I think she's going to work out really well. The close relationship that we have with Quinnipiack Valley Health has also allowed us to meet in a timely fashion, to set goals and objectives, to provide clear guidance for the town officials to address those concerns that were regarding the most recent Ebola scare. Our emergency operational plan is available at Town Hall, hopefully, and was last updated on February 10th, 2012, and should be every 3 years or updated when needed, when anything that has to go into it. In conclusion, I think Woodbridge has established a well-defined unified command team, all right, which allows that team to manage an incident by establishing a common set of objectives and strategies, and this accomplishes without any of that team losing or giving up the authority, responsibility, or accountability they may have during that incident. And I think that, I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. It's just, because some people want to be in command, and the unified command is us all making the decision, all right? And we do that very well here in town. And I, as the deputy EMD here in the town of Woodbridge, as well as, I'm very active in the emergency management field outside the town with the region. I really think that we are prepared here. And if you have any questions at any time, you can call me, and I'll try to answer them.
That was very comprehensive and informative. Are there any questions for the chief?
Officer Stewart, you were talking about the CERT program. I was just wondering, is there a reason that we no longer have a CERT program? Would it be helpful if we did? I know you said Bethany and Orange still do.
It's having an ample number of people to do it. We found that a lot of the people that we had at that time were either from Bethany or might have been from Orange. They were a little bit more active. It was difficult. It was difficult to run it under the auspice of the police department because it constituted a lot of overtime for the people that did run it. In Orange and Bethany, it's run by the fire department.
So you would have to do the training for the CERT team?
We did all the training for the CERT team. We put together, we had the instructors were mostly from the PD side, but a lot of them were from the fire side. But because of that, we kind of stepped back, and a lot of them went to Bethany and then and in Orange. And that's why we reached out to them.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, real quick. Mentioned this, you gave us a lot of information, thanks, but the emergency response team, what makes up that team? Who are the team members?
It isn't not necessarily a team, all right, but we can call it a team. It's the unified command. The one thing I can probably suggest to all you here, because you're the elected body for the town of Woodbridge, would be to go online, FEMA, under training, and there's certain NIMS training they offer. The one in particular would be ICS 100, all right? That actually is required by most of the town leaders. And that will give you an overview of what we just talked about. What is unified command? What is the incident command? What is your EOC? It'll break it down and give you, it basically gives you an instruction of how it works, all right?
Okay, thanks, that's fine, yeah, I'll do that.
Then before you go, Ray, we're going to item number 2 on the agenda, which is the State Homeland Security Grant. Do you want to just explain very briefly what this is?
Oh, okay. No, I got it. It's basically the grant. I think right now it's in the area of about $300,000. Years past, it used to be well over $1 million, but the state has looked to earmark the money before it actually gets to what we call the Regional Emergency Planning Team. And the Regional Emergency Planning Team is all the CEOs within our region. And I'm just going to take Region 2 as an example, all right? 30 towns, And under that regional emergency planning team, there's a steering committee, which I am part of, that we research and we go out and find out where money should go. All right. In the past, we've obtained a tactical Bearcat for the region. It's used for SWAT, but it's also been used for, or tactical situations. It's also been used for during Sandy. It was used down on the shoreline for notifications and everything. So it's both tactical and applicable use during emergencies. Fire department bought a burn trailer. These are big items, but there's a lot of other items that are bought for public works. Towns take the responsibility of these. Some of the individual towns in our region have taken ownership of those. This MOA that the First Selectman is going to sign is just an agreement that you agree through her participation as the REPT to delegate this money towards those items. Did I explain it? It's very difficult to go into because there's so many variables in it, but it's basically the MOA is to say that the town of Woodbridge agrees to be a partner within the region to use that money to purchase things that are needed.
Is there a motion to approve the municipal resolution that's contained in the packets? Sorry, Tony.
Second.
Are there any other questions or discussion on the motion?
You've read this and
Yeah,
you're
we do it every
comfortable
year.
with it and you,
And Ray, this is something we apply for every year, both funding and we need to re-up it every year, and the funding changes from year to year.
Correct.
but the
Anything
theory
else?
and all is the same.
The theory is that if for some reason during the particular year it was an item that Woodbridge would take control over, I could say that there was equipment that was purchased for the shelter that we took ownership of. So that would have been in Appendix A if we were taking ownership of something this year. But we're not taking any ownership of anything. It's just agreement that the money will be well spent to the region for wherever it's needed.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you both very much.
Thank you very much.